Hey guys, it's your boy Jehuty here with another video. Today I want to talk about the Wi-Fi versus LAN debate, which has somewhat sprung up through the Season 4 reveal. Overall, I'm happy and excited about Season 4, and I somewhat like the ability to see what setup my opponents are using, be it LAN, be it Wi-Fi, but I also feel that it may also bring its own problems with it. I'll explain that later down the line, but first things first, a LAN cable is always better than Wi-Fi. Why this is because with a LAN cable, you're getting stability. And with Wi-Fi, you're more prone to have like lag spikes. And the reasons for that is you have other signals interfering with the Wi-Fi, that being phone signals, other Wi-Fi routers which are around. Let me give you an example. For instance, in where I was staying before, we had a house to ourselves, and that meant there were not that many signals interfering with our signal. So I was getting a very good connection, and I actually never felt the need to hook up a cable. It also helped that the Wi-Fi router supported 5 gigahertz. I'll get later to that with the 2.4 gigahertz versus the 5 gigahertz signals, but of course it also helped that the PS4 Pro supports 5 gigahertz, but the main reason still being there was not that much interference from other Wi-Fi signals. Now where I currently am at, the router is just trash, so honestly I got myself a cable, connected it directly, and the reason for that is here I'm getting like a quarter to max a third of the speed of the Wi-Fi router, and this is bad. Like it's really bad. But on top to top that off, it's like higher ping, and there are other apartments which have Wi-Fi signals as well. It's just not an ideal setup. So overall, if you do have the chance, the opportunity, definitely go with a cable, find a long enough cable and make sure it goes all the way from your PC or your console to the router. If you do have a similar setup, like an apartment and so forth, that is your go-to method. Now to explain this a bit further, I'm quickly going to talk about 2.4 gigahertz versus 5 gigahertz signals, and also about NAT types. So first thing you have to know about the gigahertz signals is that most people run on 2.4 gigahertz signals. And the thing with these signals is that they travel a bit further versus the 5 gigahertz signals. However, the 5 gigahertz signals are the ones which have a much better and quicker bandwidth. So if you do have that kind of router setup, and your Wi-Fi card and your console or on your PC supports 5 gigahertz, you can use that as well. It will definitely improve your experience by much, especially because most other people are using 2.4 gigahertz as that being the standard. So your 5 gigahertz signals are not going to be affected by all those other apartments with 2.4 gigahertz signals. However, as I said, LAN cable is still the way to go. Now, NAT type. Now, I don't know much about NAT type. All I know is that everything which is lower than 3, NAT type 3, is okay, and NAT type 3 is just horrible. So NAT type 3 happens when your connection in most cases has to pass through somewhere else before it comes to you. Let me give you an example. So you're in a boarding school or university, and there's a big security server before the internet gets to you. So it has to come from your IPS, that being your internet service provider, passes through their security server and then comes to you. And what this does is that it just increases your ping. And of course, another side effect is that sometimes you just have connection problems with other people because you just have this higher NAT type. So NAT type 2 or open NAT, those are the things you should be looking for when you do your connection tests as well with your consoles or your speed tests on your PC. Just check that out to make sure it's not NAT type 3, and if it is, try to sort it out in one way or the other. Now, let me quickly come to why I think this divide between LAN and Wi-Fi could be problematic. And that is around 60%, maybe even more, of the Tekken players currently are on Wi-Fi. And then you have, let me say, the Tekken Elite. They make up, what, 10 to maybe 30% of the player base. And they're the ones who keep this game alive. They play all the time. They're just not going to pick Wi-Fi connections. When they see that, they're just going to say, no, I don't want that. And already in Tekken 7, you have really long matchmaking. Well, at least on PS4. It's slightly better on PC, but it's still nothing to write home about. Matchmaking just takes too long. So what I want to see is that this detection of Wi-Fi and LAN, it can stay if other aspects of Tekken's online as a whole are improved. So let me get through some of the points. Now, let me start with some of the lesser things, lesser problems, and that is in my video, my Season 4 wishlist, which I made about a month or two ago, I'll link it in the description. I was talking about how player matches need viewer slots. Like, the host should be able to like put in viewer slots, maybe 1 to 5 people who just want to watch. You get it? Then on top of that, it shouldn't be 30 seconds for you to accept a match. It should just be 7 seconds. Why is it 30 seconds for you to accept a match in a player lobby? Now, what also needs to happen is that the UI needs to slightly change. It just feels a bit unintuitive. Doesn't feel that natural, at least when I use it and some of my friends use it. And of course, there's just like a bit of lagginess in the menus. Like, you spend too much time in the menus because it takes too long for you and your opponent to accept the match, or let me say before the game registers that you accepted the match. And then there's just that little bit of time before everything moves. I'm not talking about the load times after the fight and before the fight. I'm talking about like these little things when you're actually in the lobby. Everything just takes a bit too long. Say what you want about Tag Tournament 2, but it had a much better player lobby experience. It was more responsive and the UI was overall a bit more intuitive. Now, the comparisons with Tag 2 don't stop there, because now I'm going to talk about Ranked, which I think is like the biggest problem currently. You have way too long matchmaking, and this needs to change, and therefore the netcode somehow has to be adjusted. I think that's where the main culprit is. That has to be improved. Of course, I would also like to see shorter times to accept matches, like how I also said for player matches, so 7 seconds instead of 10. And to top this off, I would also like it that you accept matches when the time runs out automatically. Why I want this, because this is how it was in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, is that you have already set in the parameters which you want. If you want just 5 bar connections, if you want 4 and above, if you want 3 or 3 and above, and I think that should make it so that you automatically accept the matches. Why this is also the case is that sometimes matchmaking takes too long, and you're running thirsty and you want some water, and you're like, okay, let me quickly go 15 seconds to the kitchen, get a bottle of water, and then that time when you come back, it's like you still want to look for matches because you got a match and you didn't accept it, and then you're back in the process of queuing again and matchmaking, and it just takes overall too long, and the other person could have also been in the match. It just should be streamlined in that way. Now, to further aid quicker matchmaking is something which is going to be a bit controversial, and I think it's revenge match limiting. What I mean by that is if you fight somebody, you should have the opportunity to revenge match, and then after that match you should have an opportunity to revenge match against that person again, and that would be the last time. So that means after each fight you have 2 more revenge matches. And how this should work is that the person who comes out overall, so the best of 3, the person who comes out on top overall should be rewarded with more XP, whereas the person who lost overall should still have the points they normally would deserve, so they don't get more minus or something. They just get the minus they would normally get. Now, why I want this implemented is, for one, you have people who don't really want to accept revenge matches because, yeah, they have like a gimmick strategy or something, and like, you know, some of these Lucky Chloe players are gonna come out and say it, and they know that you find out their tactics, so they just don't accept the revenge match. They will now be more likely to risk it for a revenge match because they think they can get those overall more points and rank up quicker. Now, for the other people, and those are the people who do these death matches where they're 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour fighting against each other, they would actually be forced to stop this. And why this is good is that those two people, in the worst case scenario, they're like over an hour out of the matchmaking pool, and those are two more people which could fight against two other people. I think it's a bit controversial, but overall I think it will help the community as a whole. I mean, people will have then a more diverse pool of people to fight against in one evening when they're playing Tekken, and that also hopefully will keep Salt in check because you're fighting different people, different characters, you have different stages. I think overall that's the way to go. I also want to hear your thoughts on that subject in the comments, so just leave a comment and let me know what you think about that specific point. Now, this video is dragged on long enough, but let me just get to like the last 1.5 points. Rage quitting. Rage quitting needs to be addressed, and like it's somewhat of a like personal gripe with me because I may not really watch sports, but I believe in sportsmanship, and rage quitting goes against that principle like big time. So what needs to happen is that Tekken needs to be able to detect who rage quits, give the win to the person who stayed in, mostly it's also a promotion, and penalize the person even more who rage quit. So I'm not talking about disconnection rate goes up, I'm talking about you get those points deducted, and maybe even a bit more. So like, if you lose 1,000 points, then you lose 1,200 points, so more than if you normally lose the match. This will discourage people from rage quitting, of course, and will also make it a bit more tolerable for the people who are actually trying to play solid Tekken, because then they don't get frustrated because somebody rage quit on them, but they automatically get the win. And lastly, what I want to address is the problem of save scumming on PC. So like 1.5 years ago I found out about this, I didn't even know this was a thing. On PC you can make offline backups of your online rank. So they're not saved to the server like they are on consoles, but they're actually saved to the PC. So what this leads to is like people boosting and people also reverting to older saves when they get demoted, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a good experience. So it means you just have high level people who actually don't deserve to be there. They've just been save scumming. I don't know how this is a thing, and I think just saving the ranks online like it is on console will address this. Anyway, those are my points. All I said, coupled of course with a better improved netcode, maybe slightly higher, slightly more rollback, maybe 1 or 2 more frames, and just overall a more efficient netcode. I think Tekken 7 Season 4 could have even more players online and a better and more healthier community, not so toxic as we always get the rap of being. And yeah, this is the point where I want to hear your views, your thoughts. So leave a comment in the comment section, let me know what you think, what you disagree on. And of course, if you liked the video, leave a like. If you disliked it, leave a dislike. And support the channel by subscribing, because I'm putting out more content on the regular. And you all have a nice day. Jehuty out.